The job numbers came out today. Are they? They're great or bad depending on where you're looking at it. In a more objective way, it definitely shows that we're in a little bit of a slump, perhaps. A bit of a slump. And that could be good if you're an interest rate cutter. If you want interest rates to go down, this would be kind of, what we're looking for, right? Yeah, let's jump in. Usually the more entertaining one, for what it's worth, is Fox News. And I'm like, that's kind of where we play clips because it's entertaining. Like, why should news be straight informative? I want entertainment. But let's do CNN this time, just to kind of mix it up. Let's see what's going on in the world of CNN.
The Trump economy is sputtering. We learned this morning that job growth in the past 3 months has all but ended. There were just 22,000 new jobs created.
This revision in June, by the way, not what we want to see. First negative since all the way back here. Very small negative, but it is a negative.
Created last month, and new revised data showed the economy actually lost jobs in June, the first time that's happened since President Trump's first term, back when most of us were still.
Okay, that was COVID though, for what it's worth. I mean, let's just be clear about when that happened, right? And then we saw this huge hiring boom right here. And it's, this is it's been following a more natural path to say that, like, okay, let's be unbiased right now, right? Because you're going to have people on the left being like, oh, well, it's completely horrible. Look, Trump's destroyed it. And then there's going to be people on the right where it's like, no, it's not even bad. It's not even bad. Nothing's even bad is happening. So let's be unbiased for a second. In reality, this is where he was inaugurated, right? It's been following a natural trend that we've been seeing. Economies don't really change from just administration to administration, especially in a 4-year administration, the way that we really want them to in a political way, because we think right bad or left bad, so it's all of a sudden bad or it's all of a sudden great. Have you seen the charts of like polling that's done on economic sentiment and if we're doing well? And every party just completely flips where they are depending on who's president and whether or not they think where the economy is. This is just flowing. This is just the normal flow. So.
And isolation during COVID. And unemployment ticked up to 4.3%, the highest in nearly 4 years. An economy that's stalling out is bad news for any president, but particularly for one who got back into the White House in large part because of what voters saw as his economic acumen.
Yeah, I mean, we're fucking rocking and rolling during that the big stimulus era of COVID, right? I can think economically, everyone has pretty decent memory of that before that 2022 market downturn. Or it's a 21, I don't remember. But either way, very curious. So, but then inflation, and that was a big reason for a lot of the electoral success that was seen, and it was a big part of the narrative.
When President Trump didn't like last month's jobs report.
How can you say that's a normal flow, Caleb, with all the things that he has done for the economy? I'm just looking at the chart, big guy. It was like this the whole time. It was like this. It was like, woo, and the election was in there. The inauguration was in there. If it was like, if we're just going full administration to administration, it'd be like, ooh, like the way you're thinking it, ooh, inauguration, boo. Where it was like the natural trend that we were seeing. I mean, that's just a chart. That's not my opinion. That's a chart.
He fired the head of the agency that compiles it. This morning, he placed the blame on his economic nemesis, the Fed chair, Jerome Powell. Jerome, too late, Powell.
I think everyone wants rate cuts, more from a selfish perspective of, it's nice to have lower rates. You don't think the tariffs, federal layoffs, or deportations are affecting? This is private sector non-farm payroll numbers, though. So the layoffs in the federal government, new job. Unemployment rate? Actually, I don't know. But I think that might affect the unemployment rate, but not the new job, non-farm payroll, right? But tariffs, I mean, yeah, potentially. What's interesting with tariffs is I'm trying to give a little more time on it, because even like the Fed chair, Jerome Powell, who's against tariffs, he's very clear on saying like it's going to ripple, right? Well, like we're not seeing effects immediately. And or being able to correlate perfectly. Like politically, we can correlate some things, but in terms of like the actual full effects, either positive or negative, those instant things we see are typically like a shock, where we're going to see what it actually settles down and looks like, in like a year or so. So I understand what you're saying, and I'm just willing to be a little more patient on the numbers, right? Before I'm like roo or bah, 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 bah. But I'm willing to go wherever the facts land, 100%. Like I don't give a fuck.
Powell should have lowered rates long ago. As usual, he's too late. I'm joined by a terrific group of reporters here. Anne-Marie Horton of Bloomberg, CNN's Matt Egan, Abby Livingston of Puck,
we got
and
a
Estelle
panel.
Herndon of the New York Times. Matt, take us through some of the numbers and what they mean.
Yeah, Dana, look, this was another brutal jobs report, and this really suggests that after years of historic resilience, the job market is facing some serious trouble right now.
Yeah, but again, for what it's worth, the very chart they showed at the beginning of this showed a natural trend. For what it's worth, it's not like we just hit a wall.
And hiring has basically stalled out to almost nothing, right? Just 22,000 jobs added during the month of August. That is a fraction of what economists were expecting. It's crazy to think that not even a year ago, back in December, the economy was adding 300 plus thousand jobs. Now we're, not even 10% of.
But for what it's worth, I mean, a reality of a situation, this is what the Fed wanted to do. You might think it sounds evil or anti-Fed for that. No, like they wanted to slow the economy. The economy was too hot. Inflation was soaring. What was it, like 9% at one point at the peak? They wanted to cool the economy. And one thing that comes with cooling the economy, especially since there was a lot of different kinds of inflation, but a huge part of it were massive wage increases due to a really competitive workers economy, especially in tech. Wanted to cool that off. And the best way to kind of get that wage growth that can fuel some parts of inflation, not all of it, of course, is to bring down the job market a little more. So
that. And as you noted, we saw that June was revised lower to show that for the first time since COVID, the U.S. economy actually lost jobs. So that ends.
Yeah, the June revision is pretty crazy. It is pretty crazy.
This nearly 5-year streak of uninterrupted job growth. That was the second longest streak in American history. It's now over. And then the unemployment rate, so you mentioned that, ticking up from 4.2% to 4.3%.
Not huge, but obviously not the direction that employees like it to go.
That's not high per se, but it is the highest since late 2021. And Fed Chair Powell.
September is hiring month in the tech industry, is way more jobs than they are increasing in machine learning. I guess we'll see. We'll see in October when September's preliminary numbers come out, right? The inflation here in California is insane, and I hope one day it will be repaired. That's interesting. I'd like to dive more into the statistics around that specifically.
Well, he has said that that's the number one indicator that he's looking at for evidence of weakness in this job market. I think that we shouldn't rule out the possibility that this is just a slow patch and the economy can rebound from here, right? I mean,
sure.
Job market's been so resilient for so long, but clearly this is another major challenge. And I think the warning signs in the economy are really piling up.
Yeah, and stand by because I do want to get back to what you just mentioned on the Fed and interest rates. Instead, let's talk politics.
Increasing unemployment unfortunately reduces inflation. That is correct, Eric. It's kind of one of the intents, but I mean, it's the dual mandate, right? Inflation and employment. You want to be close to full employment as much as possible and as close to 2% inflation as much as possible. That's what they're balancing. And now we're seeing the effects of trying to get that inflation under control right now as we speak.
And I mean, yes, the president likes to say that immigration was a big issue. I'm sure it was. The culture wars, definitely. But we know the biggest reason.
It's also been a natural trend, though, for what it's worth. Again, the chart goes back to early 2021.
Was the fact that people were hearing from President Biden that the numbers are good, let's just wait, but people didn't feel.
Oh, talking back to the previous administration, during those times, those numbers?
That way. Now it's the numbers that aren't looking good either.
Exactly. It's a mirror image from kind of 2021 when we had Democrats at that time kind of telling people, don't look at the numbers, don't kind of believe what's in front of you. You kind of hear that from Trump now. This is what we had kind of warned about all through the summer, the prospect that his kind of self-imposed economic crisis, tariffs driving that, could pose not just uncertainty, but a downward.
A natural trend can still be influenced? Absolutely. I think the biggest influence is the cost of borrowing money, right? And usually when the cost of borrowing money is this high for this long, traditionally, compared to where we've been at normally over the past couple decades, traditionally what happens is a recession is followed and companies are a lot less likely to invest if a recession is potentially on the horizon. Why would you? Like we're investing right now, but there's a part of me that's like, oh shit, should we cool a bit? what's the economy going to look like in a year? But, I'm still more on the invest side.
Job market and really reverse what has been Trump's number one strength coming into this. But
wow, 9-year high in Canada. What is the unemployment rate? Whew, yeah, I mean, the Canadian economy is not something I would want to mimic 100%. I mean, they haven't had productivity growth in 4 years? That is not what you want to see in an economy. That does not look very good. Here's the unemployment numbers, by the way, from today's report. Among different sections of the overall economy. Adult men, 4.1% unemployed. Adult women, 3.8%. Teenagers, okay, well, this isn't surprising, 13.9%. White people, 3.7%. Black people, 7.5%. Asians, 3.6%. Hispanics, 5.3%. New job entrances decreased to 786,000 in August, down from 199, which is down 199,000. Okay, it's interesting. Average hourly earnings rose 0.3% month over month and 3.7% year over year, which is actually over the current inflation rate. So wages, at least, I know there's always arguments and disagreements on what real inflation is or what real wages are, but at least from these same metrics reported from the same bureau, wages have outpaced inflation year over year right now.
Hi, listen here, Financial Audit. I've curated the exact resources and tools I personally use or would use if I was in certain situations. So take advantage of these offers in the resources section in the description below. The first one, I've moved my investments to Webull. Do the same and transfer to my investing app of choice, and you get cash bonuses of $200 all the way up to $30,000, depending on initial funding amount, and up to 8.1% APY on your money, and up to 3.5 matches for your IRA. And then number 2, a great new checking account that I've switched over from SoFi, and it's called Chime. Get that $550 bonus when you sign up with direct deposit and get almost 4% on your money just sitting there. And then 3, automate your investing with Acorns. Usually sign-up incentives are only $5, but you get $20 with my link. Number 4, you can increase your income and boost your resume with a course career certification. 5, if T-Mobile is good in your area, switch to Helium and get a literal $0 a month phone plan for the same exact service. But most importantly, go get your free Hammer financial score and see where you stand in the world of finances. Take the assessment at calebhammer.com. You will not regret any of these. Change your life today.
I also think you got to add in the big, beautiful bill with this, right? And it speaks to, I think, is a kind of hypocrisy at the heart of Trump's second term. For all the talk about his growth among working class voters, his growth among working class voters of color, what we have seen in terms of economic reality here is a bill that largely amounts to a wealth transfer, a removal of benefits.
Are we talking about the BBB right now? The BBB? It's interesting. Okay, I didn't know we were going to get into that. But okie dokie. I guess that is daytime news for you, right?
From SNAP and Medicaid. And I think that's the reason why you see some of those poll numbers, particularly.
Yeah, poll numbers. I'm sure this, because something like this could be like a 2-year thing, right? Could definitely affect the midterms next year. But I highly doubt whatever economic condition we're in is going to affect the presidential election and basically 3 years from now, because usually that's enough time for things to change. Because remember, even in the last year, the Biden administration, we were seeing a lot of the trends that we're seeing now in the market, dramatically recovered for the last couple of years. But at the beginning of Biden's administration, that's where we saw the higher inflation. That's where we saw the market go down for an entire year. And well, actually, I just kind of proved my point incorrect, right? Because that shit plagued him all the way to the next election, even when things actually turned around. So, wow, I guess we'll see.
On the economy reversing among the very groups that delivered Trump the White House last year.
Abby?
Trump immediately pivoted to the Fed and Jerome Powell, but when I talk to Republican sources, they're all worried about tariffs, and the full brunt of that has not been felt yet. Some say we may not feel that, but
yeah, see, this is what I was saying earlier. It takes a little longer for it to ripple through the economy.
Politically speaking, the question I have is, does this impact the gubernatorial elections in November in New Jersey and Virginia? But moreover, when does this hit next year, if it does, and how does that affect the midterms?
And, there was such hullabaloo.
Hullabaloo! Wow.
Use a word that probably shouldn't be used very much, Anne-Marie, over the fact that last month, when the jobs report came out and the president wasn't happy about it, he got rid of the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics that
but this is being reported by the same group, right? All right.
Compiles them. And so the Commerce Secretary was on this morning, interestingly, before we all knew what the jobs numbers were, and was once again going after BLS, even though the guy that they removed is no longer there.
Yeah.
They're just bent against the president's success. They're rooting against America.
Oh fuck! Maybe we should have done CNBC instead of Fox, or instead of CNN.
And against Donald Trump, and that's got to end. So he can't replace somebody, 2 weeks ago, and you expect fundamental change. But what you will get is an agency that's on side.
Well, there isn't fundamental change yet at BLS. The commissioner actually doesn't even have control over the data. The data is collected by statisticians. They sit in different...
Shit, I've gotten so old now that I find some of the anchors attractive. Fuck, they always used to be old. They always used to be really old people. But I find it kind of attractive. That's crazy. Wow, am I broken?
Welcome back. The economy adding 22,000 jobs in August. That was well below estimates, while the unemployment...
Shit, her too. Fuck. Guys, I'm old. Fuck, I'm old. Ah, shit.
rate ticked higher. As expected, 4.3% is the new unemployment rate. Jan Hatzius, Goldman Sachs chief economist, head of global investment research, joins us now.
We are just a few seconds away from that August employment number.
This is when it hit. This morning.
Stan Talley is standing by. He's been watching all of this as we get ready to go to this number. Rick, we're going to send it over to you.
Wow, and the data is actually coming across the wires on time.
All right, guy. Calm the fuck down, dude.
Good job, BLS. Change in non-farm payrolls for the August jobs report, 22,000. 22,000. Interest rates started dropping long before this data was released.
Well, I like him too, but I had him as a fourth. That every 2 years.
By the War Department. We're back.
Thank you.
Oh, the announcement is the War Department. Oh, okay.
And last month, well, a subtle revision to 79,000. And if you look at the 2-month revision, thank goodness it's not minus 258,000 like it was last month. Comes out to minus 21,000. Of everybody, of course, is trying to find out what's going on with the unemployment rate. We'll do that next. The unemployment rate comes in at comes in at 4.3. 4.3. So it moved higher. Now, here's something interesting. What's the comp? We haven't had a rate that high going all the way back to 2021.
Rate cuts? Perhaps? I heard potentially the next meet.
It was 4.5. So you could see that the way it dropped really was quite incredible. We went from 4.2 to 4.5 in November-October period of 2021. Now let's go at average hourly earnings up 0.3. Very solid, very much as expected. If we look at year over year, 3.7, losing some steam. 3.8 was expected. 3.9 was in the rearview mirror. So 3.7, that would definitely take us back also to mid-2021 to find a comp there. Hours worked. Many people are counting on this to give them some early clues, thinking hours are going to drop a bit before people potentially get fired. There's two ways to look at it. Maybe you give your remaining people more hours before you hire people. I think it could go either way. It comes in at 34.2. That would be the second lowest of the year. We've had several, 34.1.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, look here. This is what happened in the market today. This is kind of what it's like, whoop, a nice little plunge. It's not like it was crazy over the course of 5 years, 1 year, year to date, even 6 months ago. It's like nothing. Five over the last week, kind of. It's not even the lowest point over the last 5 weeks, so it didn't react like too crazy to it. It actually started up, but then it went down. So it was a little interesting. Guys should do infomercials, yeah. But again, when I'm talking about that overall trend, like it is kind of what not necessarily expected, but it's in that. It's not unexpected either, right? It's kind of been heading that way. It's just, this is what the Fed is intended. Like what they did, not in terms of necessarily, I mean, inflation's kind of stalled out, I think a little higher than they want, but in terms of cooling the overall economy, definitely worked. Unemployment went up 0.1%, still relatively low, suggesting that immigration restrictions crippling the supply of available workers came from the firing, after a month after the firing the head of the agency. Overall unemployment rate, it's not like going crazy. I don't think anyone loves like a increase in unemployment rate, but it's not like it's like, freaking out. It's not like it's not just, I don't know, man. Lots of negative reactions today, and it's not like a thrilling thing. We're not in the world of like adding all these net hundreds of thousands of jobs. Because I mean, we still added 598, right? And this year so far, where before we were like, a couple hundred a month, couple 100,000 a month. So here is federal government employment. It's the largest sector of layoffs this year so far. Good for you. You have capital to invest. Well, I wouldn't be necessarily throwing in like a big chunk right now anyway. We're pretty much at all-time highs. I mean, I'm definitely continuing dollar cost averaging for sure. I call it 100 times leverage position investment in the S&P 500. I don't know if this is when I'd want to do it. Companies are pulling back and hiring to keep profits healthy at a time of tepid demand. Meanwhile, immigration restrictions are crippling the availability of workers, lowering the number of jobs the economy needs to add each month to keep the unemployment rate from rising. This economist noted the unemployment rate has risen slightly less than 0.2 percentage points over the past 6 months. Exactly. See, that's despite the weakening job growth. This probably partially reflects weaker growth in the workforce due to tighter migration policies. The slowdown in immigration means that we don't need as many jobs to keep the labor market in balance as we did a year or two ago. Some groups are facing worse than others in the tepid job market. The share of unemployed people who have been unemployed for 27 weeks or longer has risen to 25.7%, which is the highest since February 2022. Oh, 2022. That was the year the market was down, right? I think. I closed the S&P 500. Unemployment rate for black workers rose from 7.5 to 7.2. I mean, that's not like, and that's since October 2021, the highest. But in terms of like, I mean, that's 0.3%. It's not like a crazy thing. It's not great. July was revised up. June was revised down. So yeah. Trump said dinner with leaders on Thursday night, so last night, the real job numbers would come in a year when new technology sites open. You're going to see job numbers like our country has never seen before, Trump said. All right. Well, I guess we'll see. But today's job numbers, not the most thrilling among all the job numbers we've ever seen, but it's also not the most doom and gloom either. It's kind of a sit and hold, it seems. But that revision of June seeing something negative, not great. Rate cut, we'll see.